We are back with the second part of the MCU pitch video. In the first part, I went over my pitch for a Spider-Man movie, and in this video, I'm going to go over my much shorter pitches for a bunch of movies, basically just the movies that will lead into an eventual Avengers movie. And yeah, so without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the second movie in a potential MCU here would be Iron Man. I'm going to be honest, Iron Man's probably one of the characters I know the least about that we're launching here, but he is part of the main Avengers lineup, so I think it makes sense to include him here. I recently rewatched the first Iron Man, and I feel like it's kind of a perfect Iron Man origin. I feel like it does everything that really needs to be done to set Tony up. You have his backstory, you set up his supporting cast. I think it's well done. So since we already have a perfect Iron Man movie, like Iron Man origin movie, I'm not totally sure what to do here. I don't want to do too much. Touch on his origin, maybe allude to the Mandarin a little bit, but we're not going to do him yet here. I want Iron Man to fight Living Laser at some point, maybe at the beginning of the movie, but otherwise I don't really care too much. The main villain is going to be MODOK. Go all out. Do your best to make him look good with CGI or practical effects or whatever. Have Tony make fun of him a lot. Introduce Pepper Potts and Rhodey. Also, at some point in the movie, Tony reveals that he's Iron Man to the world just because I don't need Tony to have a secret identity. The post-credit scene has Living Laser being approached by some mysterious figure. Move on. The third movie up would be Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'd say that these characters are the ones I know the least about, just beating out Iron Man. I want to make Egghead the main villain, just have them fight a mad scientist, and I think he can act as an interesting foil for Hank. I also want to set up Hank's hesitation around being a superhero, which, yes, we're doing Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne here, not Scott Lang, and I don't even remember what the girl's name was in the MCU. Hope, I think. Also, have them fight Whirlwind at the beginning of the movie, and in the post-credit scene, have him be approached by the same mysterious figure from the end of Iron Man. Establish here that Hank is a scientist first. He didn't even really want to be a superhero, and he doesn't like the whole beating up villains thing. He's much more into rehabilitation. He was just a scientist who discovered something. Janet's the one who wanted to be a superhero. Hank is working on a program that could protect the world so that Hank and Janet could step back. It's still in its very early stages of development, though. He calls it Ultron. The fourth movie is the Hulk. I really don't need a movie that dumbs down the Hulk to an absurd degree like the MCU did. I also don't want to weaken him, though. Make him the big green rage monster everyone loves. Let him fight Absorbing Man in this movie. Introduce characters like Betty Ross, Doc Samson, and Rick Jones. Of course, Thunderbolt Ross can be here, not as the Red Hulk yet, just as a general who hates the Hulk. Also, have Jennifer Walters show up, but not as She-Hulk, just as Bruce's cousin. I really want to touch on Hulk's fractured psyche here and how the Hulk is literally a different personality from Banner. Maybe even touch on some of the other personas, like maybe Joe Fixit. I want us to go relatively in-depth, but not do too much. Maybe a mention or two of Bruce's strained relationship with his father. Two post-credit scenes here. One with Bruce Banner going to a scientific conference and meeting with Tony Stark and Hank Pym, and another with the Absorbing Man being met by the same figure who recruited Whirlwind and Living Laser. Our fifth movie is going to be Thor. I don't want to do Loki quite yet, but I think it should be established that he is a villain. Maybe he's locked away somewhere or he ran off somewhere, at least that's all we know at the beginning. We can have Thor go to Earth briefly, introducing Jane Foster as a friend of his, who he is attracted to in some capacity. There's romantic tension there, but nothing really comes of it due to how much time Thor spends on Asgard. However, we see that his origin has pretty much already happened, with him being banished to Earth, having to learn humility, blah blah blah, all that stuff. On Asgard, we get to know the Warriors 3 and Sif, Thor's Asgardian friends, as well as his parents Odin and Frigga. We can also introduce Valkyrie here in some capacity. The main goal here is just to introduce more of the Asgardian cast, and unlike in the MCU, try to actually make them characters who are relatively likable to the audience. At least give them personalities, because they don't really have those in the MCU. The main antagonist here would be the Enchantress and her Executioner, so I guess antagonists. They'd be attempting a coup of Asgard, trying to use Amora's powers to take over the throne. Of course, they'd fail, but Amora and the Executioner would be banished to Earth at the end, where we learn they were working for Loki all along. Our post-credit scenes would set up two future events. First of all, they'd show us Surtur, who is plotting Ragnarok with Loki. And secondly, they'd show us the Enchantress and the Executioner being recruited by the same mysterious individual who recruited all the other villains. This is where we get our first TV show, which would be Daredevil. I don't need too much to be done here, just set up Daredevil and his supporting cast, mainly Foggy and Karen. The main antagonists would be Kingpin, but also Hammerhead for this first season. Matt wouldn't even beat Kingpin at the end, and he wouldn't even really learn into who he is until the last episode. Matt's trying to put a stop to all the crime and gangs in New York, and Kingpin just sort of happens to be at the top. He is going to take down Hammerhead's gang, though, and beat him in a one-on-one fight. I know Hammerhead's more of a Spider-Man villain, but we aren't going to have room for him in the Spider-Man stuff I have planned, so let's just do him here. Maybe we can get Spider-Man to cameo in an episode or two, just to remind the audiences that he's still kicking around, but that's really all. On to our sixth movie, Fantastic Four. We just got a really solid Fantastic Four movie, so I'm not entirely sure what to even say or do on this one. Obviously, we're not going to do Galactus because we just did that. I think maybe Mole Man would be fun as a main antagonist. Like, have the FF already be celebrities like in First Steps, maybe tease them in previous movies. They're explorers before superheroes, though, and they decide to go exploring Subterranea where they encounter Mole Man. We can spend a good chunk of the movie there, exploring the location, and then we head back to the above ground, properly introducing someone like Alicia Masters, Ben's future wife. They can fight Mole Man's big monster Giganto, show off their powers a bit, and then they beat Mole Man. You don't need to do too much, just let people fall in love with the cast, and make sure to do your hard work fleshing out the dynamics between the team. That should really be the most important part of the movie. I feel like First Steps did a good job with that for the most part, but we didn't really get anything between Ben and Sue, so I'd like to do that in this movie. Oh, and also, I want Johnny's actor to be the same age as Peter's, or maybe a little bit older, because I really want to have their friendship be a thing in this universe. For the post-credit scene, all we need to do is show Latveria. Maybe go inside Castle Doomstat, show a man in a green hood watching a television broadcast showing the Fantastic Four. That's it, that's all. Everyone's going to know what it is right away. For our seventh movie, we've got Captain America. I feel like this is also a character I don't know a lot about. I mean, I know general stuff, but I'd say most of my, advanced comic knowledge centers around other characters and teams. But, I do think you should have the first Cap movie just be one set in World War II. I know that's how the MCU already did it, but I do think that is the best way to do a first Captain America movie. I know I didn't give the other characters origins, but I don't know how well Cap works if you don't at least have one movie showing his time in World War II. Set up a supporting cast, make Bucky younger than him. He should be around 17 to 18. They should have a nice mentor-pupil type relationship, although by the end of the movie, Bucky should be presumed dead. Obviously, Cap will be fighting Red Skull here, but he'll also encounter Arnim Zola in human form, and he'll also meet and fight Nazi scientist Heinrich Zemo. We'll also introduce Howard Stark, Peggy Carter, and that scientist dude Erskine. Logan in here, it doesn't need to be extended, he doesn't even need to use his powers. Just have a guy named Logan be part of Cap's Howling Commandos. You can also have Nick Fury's grandpa be here, as well as Dum Dum Dugan. I also want to maybe give a quick peek at the invaders. We don't need a full-on scene, but maybe mention them or show a flash of them. Mainly Jim Hammond, Human Torch. I don't want to do Namor here because he's going to have to be younger to match the ages of other characters. So anyways, Red Skull is the main villain. Cap goes into the ice at the end to stop a jet carrying a bunch of bombs, and that's actually going to be the last we see of Cap in this movie. You can have a funeral, maybe that's the ending of the movie. The end credits scene would be someone wearing a similar purple and gold costume to Heinrich Zemo, standing before all the villains that we've been seeing assembled so far in these post-credit scenes. Living Laser, Whirlwind, Absorbing Man, Enchantress, and the Executioner. Zemo tells them that the time to act is soon, but for now they need to bide their time. Something along those lines, at least. Of course, this is Helmet Zemo, not Heinrich, but this is what we've been building up to in these post-credit scenes of Avengers movies, the Masters of Evil. So that's the end for this video, talking about building up to the Avengers and also talking about the Fantastic Four here. I just wanted to go through and quickly touch on all of the Avengers here. And this is the ending portion of the video, so this part isn't scripted and it's going to be a bit more sloppy, I guess you could say. But basically what I wanted to do was just set up everybody, just establish where everybody is and all those characters and stuff. And, in sequels, I'll try to, go a little bit more in depth on all of the characters and things like that. Because I didn't really do it here. The longer pitches are obviously the first Spider-Man we already saw. That video is longer than this one is, and this one has 7 something movies, I think, and it's just 6 movies and a show. and the Spider-Man video is one movie. And Spider-Man 2 is probably going to get its own video, and X-Men is probably going to get its own video. Or I have another TV show and then Avengers, so I might group the other TV show and Avengers in with X-Men and just make a really long video. Because I don't, the Avengers pitch isn't long enough for its own video. And then I'm working on a phase 2 script. So, once I finish with these videos, I'll do that. I have other videos that I'm working on as well. I'm gonna be on vacation in a week, so I have to, um, try to like finish videos to have uploaded while I'm gone. But yeah, that's all. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you thought, and yeah, that's all from me. Have a good one.